Today I'm talking about how the patient experience is changing. And we're going to be talking about some uplifting things like the Center for Disease Control's top morbidity and disease rates. I mean, we're going to make this fun. I'd like to open by letting you know of an intent that I set personally every day before I see patients, and I'm setting it right now before I begin this presentation, and it is the intent to not attach judgment in an emotional way at all, but rather practice discernment. Discernment of taking and looking at the facts, the observations I'm making, and being judicious about the way I decide to evaluate these things and then take action on issues that show up there. So I mention this because when digging into healthcare, this is something that affects each and every one of us. And this judgment should not be pushed onto the patient by the physician, but most importantly, this judgment should not be pushed on the patient by the patient. So discernment is the general feeling I want throughout this entire presentation. So let's get to the uplifting stuff. Here in the United States of America, we lead the entire world in terms of research. Medical research in particular, there's not even a country close to us in terms of the volume of output we have here. The traditional way that medicine is delivered right now is exceptionally good at delivering against emergent care or immediate health situations that need immediate attention. And so an operating room environment like what's illustrated here, a researcher producing breakthroughs that result in breakthrough medications or vaccinations, we lead the world here. And yet, I'm about to give you some depressing information about where our stand is in terms of our ability to deliver effective health care as measured by patient outcomes. We are in a state of emergency. Our healthcare system itself is in an emergent situation right now, and this won't be a big surprise to anybody. Quite a few physicians are in the process of transitioning out of practice because the changes in healthcare right now have been so extreme that they're very taxing on the individuals, and the old way of thinking is rapidly changing. I'll speak more about this as we proceed on. So, as I promised, some uplifting stuff. Chronic disease is the leading cause of death and disability in the United States. We don't need to read through all of this, but through the bullet points you'll see repeating themes. Chronic diseases and conditions such as heart disease, stroke, cancer, type 2 diabetes are some of the leading causes of death. What I want you to see when you look at this is I want you to think of lifestyle changes in an effort to prevent the onset. Okay, lifestyle changes in an effort to prevent the onset. Again, we're exceptionally good here at delivering care whenever things are completely broken. But in terms of wellness care being the forefront of the way we're doing things, we've got some room to grow here. The outlines here, it describes, as of 2012, about half of adults, this is 117 million people in the United States, had one or more chronic health conditions. 25% of the population had two or more chronic health conditions. This is an incredible drain. This is an incredible drain on us as a society. It's an incredible drain on our healthcare system. The pessimist, Dan, I don't let him out very much, but he's saying drop the lifeboats and sound the alarms. The optimist, Dan, says, look at all this room for improvement. And the realist says, drop the lifeboats and let's get to work because this is going to be tough. We literally, as an example, this is like having a household income of $200,000 and consistently spending annually $300,000. This is how we're operating healthcare in the United States of America. It's not a matter of something wanting to change something, it's absolutely necessary. Moving forward, mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the most effective of them all? A group called CommonwealthFund.org. This is an organization founded in 1919 for the purpose of promoting superior methods of delivering health care. It is a private organization with an endowment of $700 million, so they've got some capital to do research. A nonpartisan group, and what they've done recently, this year, beginning of this year, they did an evaluation of 11 different countries. You'll see our friends up here. These are industrialized countries that produce at a high level in terms of gross domestic product. And the take-homes here it begins with the issue, the central crux that the United States healthcare system spends far more than other high-income countries, yet has previously documented gaps in the quality of care. So the key findings you'll see there in the fourth paragraph, the US ranked last on performance overall and ranked last or near last on access, administrative efficiency, equity, and healthcare outcome domains. It's absolutely unacceptable that we lead the world in healthcare research. We're producing more raw data than any of the following countries, not even close, and yet we're lacking so sorely in the implementation. The US healthcare system is an outlier, spending far more but falling short of the performance achieved by other high-income countries. This is a fascinating website, so feel free to get a hold of me later if you need this contact, but it's written at the bottom, www.commonwealthfund.org. And this is the interactives component. This takes you through an interactive website that allows you to see how these inefficiencies are documented with multivariate analysis. So we've got a paradigm shift that's absolutely necessary. We've got a system that delivers exceptional care for very, very ill individuals. But we really need to be moving towards a healthcare system, one that institutes practices that are rooted in wellness, preventative thinking. This is where we need to be focusing, on the patient. What we saw earlier, for so long in healthcare, the focus has been on how the provider wants to deliver. But the doctor's job is to teach. Doctor in Latin literally means teacher. So it's less focused now on the provider and more on the patient. Now, lifestyle-induced chronic diseases. This is a brief list of bullet points. This is a peer-reviewed, very high-impact journal, Scientific World Journal, 2013, the edition in pages 1 through 12. These factors were identified: heart disease, stroke, diabetes, obesity, metabolic syndrome, think pre-diabetes, and certain cancers, all directly influenced by lifestyle. Don't believe me? Believe Scientific World Journal. And I want to thank Dr. Jeffrey Bland. He's a PhD researcher and biochemist and nutritionist, and I pulled a lot of this content from a lecture I attended with him about 3 weeks ago. Chronic disease and genetics. Chronic disease is a result of complex interplay between genes and environment. Let's just pause for a second. You've heard me speak before about the Human Genome Project and our genetic predisposition to disease states. When we first set out to plot the human genome, we were expecting to find coding that would help us customize medicine for each individual in such a way that it would revolutionize the delivery of medicine. This is true in certain instances. There are certain SNP variables in a genetic sequence that can be isolated, and customized medicine can be provided in those cases. Absolutely astounding work that can be done now in this customized medicine. Think of that as the icing on the proverbial cake. 80% of what we need to be doing in healthcare, we have direct control over. These are lifestyle-based factors, okay? So again, from a place of discernment, not judgment, because that cake I was talking about, I love that stuff too. Chronic disease is a result of complex interplay between genes and environment. So now the field of epigenetics, epi meaning above the genetic sequence itself, is where we're looking. This is how our genes react when exposed to certain factors in the environment. And these factors can be physical, they can be chemical, they can be mental, emotional. Okay, so when we look at this, genetic risk in complex diseases results from a large number of DNA sequence polymorphisms or changes that are impacted by diet and lifestyle choices. Optimist Dan is pretty happy. We can almost raise the lifeboats if we start taking note of this. And this is from a very high impact journal also, Cell, 2016, light reading, right? 2016, but outstanding information. So this is what we're talking about, thinking anti-inflammatory in our eating. We hear about inflammation being at the root of so many chronic diseases. You know, inflammation is a necessary part of survival. Without it, none of us would be in this room right now. But the process is supposed to flip on, initiate a healing sequence, and then disengage. Chronic inflammation can be induced by a diet that's imbalanced or out of balance. And so this is a balanced diet. And I had to include some supplements down here because in certain cases, it makes sense to make sure we're replete in areas where there might be depletion states. Here comes the lifestyle component. We see yoga growing interest in yoga, meditation, mindfulness practices, helping to disengage the stress response in the body. And so just a few examples here of meditation. There's some body work happening there. Someone's receiving massage. You know, in this day and age, we are so bombarded with stressors constantly that having ways to interrupt that cycle is absolutely imperative. And a mindfulness practice, practiced every day, every morning, is an absolutely ideal way to begin that. That can be 1 to 2 minutes in silent meditation and prayer. That can be 5 minutes of reading something that's inspiring to you. But an ability to reflect on how you're going to start your day before you engage. Where to start? It can seem overwhelming, especially when we start taking inventory of dietary inputs and you hear people like me saying, don't be eating so much sugar. But clearly, sleep is going to be the first place to start. The Nobel Prize in Medicine was just awarded to 2 individuals who helped isolate the DNA sequence or the portion of DNA associated with the circadian rhythm, our sleep-wake cycle, and the patterns that our organ systems work through the waking day also. Sleep is crucial. Proper sleep, good sleep hygiene is absolutely crucial for resetting your body and allowing your nervous system to have a reset so that you're not locked into a stress state, a fight or flight response. Dietary inputs are crucially important. We can make a tremendous impact here by eating more of the things that we see in the lower left-hand corner of this. There are so many, we think of macronutrients, or your proteins, fats, carbohydrates, but there are micronutrients that number over 10,000, and we're still discovering. These have anti-neogenic, anti-cancer properties, and when taken with regularity, the positive impact is incredible, and there's no disputing that. Moving forward, exercise, some type of effort being expended daily. There's no one size fits all. In fact, if you have somebody that's in a state of exhaustion, that's been under a high stress state, you don't want them doing high cardiometabolic workouts every single day. It can be depleting to their adrenal glands. But customized exercise makes sense, and that doesn't have to be a workup. It's great to work with a trainer if that's helpful for you, but it can just be making sure you're getting movement each and every day. Taking breaks, so if you're seated in front of a computer screen like so many of us have to be, just making sure you're getting those micro breaks of getting up and walking for 5 minutes for each hour that you're seated. That's just wonderful. And then meaningful personal connection and self-expression, so important. I know this room is filled with people who do meaningful work, deep meaningful work, and connect with their clients, prospects in the process. Make sure you're feeding and nurturing that portion of you because it's incredibly important. That's self-expression, and then personal connection, like these 2 in the upper right-hand corner. So we've got sleep, nutrition. These are kettlebells in case anybody hasn't ever encountered those, but let me tell you. My trainer has one that I've named the golden orb of delight, because when I walk in and it's sitting out, I go, Eric, am I picking that up today? And he goes, oh yeah, you are. More great information from Cell Journal 2015, personalized precision dietary advice improving patient outcomes. We don't need to go into a great deal of depth here, but this is 600 individuals with a very specific issue, glucose control, serum glucose, so think diabetes, prediabetes. And what they figured out was this genetic information that's now available to us allows for precision customization. So I don't want to sell short the incredible work that's being done in research centers. I just want you to understand that that's not likely to save your life. What's likely to extend your life, sometimes by a margin of decades, are the lifestyle practices that I'm describing. Less sugars in the raw form, more berries. They're almost as good. They're just as good. Just put some chocolate on top. I'm a realist. Fasting mimicking diets, ketogenic, vegetarian, low carb, and paleo kind of fits in there too. These are diet trends that are very popular right now. The basic concept is we're drawing control for our insulin response. Okay, so the ideal thing is to have an insulin response that is sensitized. When your body perceives an intake of food, that your insulin rises in order to take that in and process it, it's resistance to that insulin response that's deleterious to our bodies, and over a period of time leads to something like diabetes. This is the most important spot to start. If you don't know where to begin in terms of your internal health, it's with the gut. I'll just start right there. Influences of a gut microbiome, that is basically the terrain, the internal terrain inside your body. these influences are far-reaching. Immune maturation, cellular proliferation, vascularization, neurologic signaling, so we're actually talking about the function of the nervous system, energy biogenesis, and then biosynthesis of vitamins, hormones, and neurotransmitters. This is all happening within our gut. And this is New England Journal of Medicine, a very popular medical journal also, 2016 that's pulled from. So the gut-brain connection, this talks more about that. A doctor named Michael Gershon, MD, talking about the second brain. This is all out of Cell also. And the purpose of lipopolysaccharides and pattern recognition receptors. The take-home message here is that your nervous system and your gut are inextricably linked. The second brain exists here. And if you ever get nervous and feel it in your gut, it's because that's your nervous system down there, at least half of it. Half the serotonin that's produced, utilized by your brain, is produced at the gut level. So an approach that involves healthcare providers progressive in their thought process, involves excellent nutrition, a workout regimen, and then consider natural medicine where it makes sense in a preventative standpoint. Okay, that's a homeopathic remedy up there. We're really going to get our best outcomes as we integrate and combine. So now I'm going to open it to questions. Wendy.
I got a little lost when you were talking about, well, a couple times, but the ketogenic and the paleo, and what exactly was your final analysis on that?
I wanted to just give a nod to, because these are some very popular approaches right now. They're trending right now, almost in a faddish way. But I wanted to give a nod to those approaches to say that, in fact, there's good science backing up the process of developing insulin sensitivity, making your body more sensitive and able to cope with dietary inputs by doing some fasting. And a ketogenic diet is one that generates ketone bodies as you break down stored energy sources. And that ketogenic diet involves a very, very low sugar intake over a period of time. And this has been very effective at reversing processes that where patients are given less than optimal prognosis, sometimes producing results where results weren't thought possible before. Just the idea that we can, in fact, have power to leverage this.
So I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
We all have a lot going on in our days. We all have 24 hours, and sometimes our work overtakes our lives. We have a limited amount of time to sleep and exercise. Do you stay in bed, or do you get up and exercise in the morning?
Great question. The amount of exercise or the amount of sleep that anybody needs is variable, but we hear that general rule, 7 to 8 hours a night. I can tell you objectively that your body's not going to do very well on less than 6 hours a night of sleep. Okay, and so if in fact your option is to sleep 6 hours and not be able to exercise, or sleep 5 hours and get up and exercise, 2 days a week I want you to sleep in 5 hours and exercise, and 2 days a week. And the remaining 5 days of the week I would sleep that entire 6 hours, because I do recognize how busy many individuals, including yourself, are. It's hard to. Great question.
Dan, it may come as a surprise, but I'm not a big yoga guy. So I have been considering meditation.
Yeah.
There was a lady on Shark Tank just last week, I think, who had an app where you could meditate for 5 minutes a day. Is that really worth doing? I know Amber's actually been trying it and enjoys it. So.
Yes. The quick answer is yes, it's absolutely worthwhile, and there are many meditation apps out there today. This is a wonderful way to get started, guide the process. Absolutely.
And I'll add to that. I'll comment that, inspired by Richard Terry's presentation on Miracle Morning, I began a morning routine that includes short meditation, and I use an app called Headspace. There are multiple apps available, but what it does is it not only kickstarts the morning, but you develop a skill set around clearing your mind and being mindful, so that during the day, when moments of stress arise, you're able to cope with them, and you have mechanisms and techniques that you can apply to reduce that stress, and it has a cascading effect on productivity and health and well-being.
Beautifully stated as usual, Tom. Thank you. Yes, Bill.
Thanks. I want to second what was just said. I think the difference is absolutely amazing, and I want to say that it's an acquired skill,
Yes.
so that if you practice every day, start with 2 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, work up. And one method, there are the apps. One method is the Zen practice of focusing on your breath, starting with that, and it is amazing. And if you get to a point where you can switch on and off, almost literally switch on and off at points during the day for stress relief, for you hang up the phone and it's a very stressful phone call, and there's communication that you don't like, or yelling going on, or something like this, then it's almost a switch. You can switch, and you feel the tension draining right down out the bottom of your feet.
I love it, Bill. Thank you. And the amazing thing that you're speaking of in breath work is that we're jumping into the driver's seat in those cases of our autonomic nervous system, or the automatic part that goes to the machine that's actually running things as we're consciously focusing elsewhere. And that autonomic nervous system stress is a central component to a stress inventory. If we're looking at that, that's actually some of the most deleterious type of stress. And with the meditation practice that involves breath work, that breath work engages a relaxation response in that autonomic nervous system. It's beautiful.
I just want to add one other thing to jump-starting the day. It's a different kind of energy.
It is. It
It's
is.
the energy born of anxiety,
Right.
which certainly is energetic,
Yes.
but this is a different kind of energy.
Absolutely.
And it's absolutely as effective, but it's more sustainable.
I agree. We're almost out of time. Dale?
Yeah, and the flip side of that coin, we've been talking a lot about stress, but taking a few minutes to savor the good stuff. We
Absolutely.
don't take enough time to appreciate the good stuff as it happens, and that is a great stress reliever as well.
Absolutely.
And it energizes us and gets us moving again, so.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you all so much. Feel Richard.
I know why Rich is visiting, but I make it short, please.
Man, you are in. Yeah.
Thank you, Tom. A selfless plug for Miranda Esmond White, Channel 9, 5:30 in the morning, 22 minutes. It's a low key. It's unbelievable. She just starts my day. That's all I can say.
Morning stretch routine, right?
Classical stretch.
Classical stretch. All right. Thank you so much.